are listening to Fantha tracks.
It's time to head south with the Fantha From Down Under. Here's your host, Adam O'Brien.
Welcome back to Fantha Tracks Radio's Australian show here, the Fantha From Down Under. I'm your host, Adam O'Brien, and tonight we're going to be looking at the Lando Calrissian Adventures, or the Adventures of Lando Calrissian. I'm coming to you live from Quinlan's Cantina in the Gold Coast of Australia for this month's episode. We're going to be looking at everything pre-Disney. As I've mentioned here before, I'm not really keen on the new stories and where things are going currently. It's just not of interest to me. So to me, I'm here to celebrate Star Wars from the George days, Star Wars from the Dark Horse days, from, of course, the days Del Rey gave us some classic novels, everything from, of course, the New Jedi Order. So it's not my cup of tea, but to those that love it, I hope you enjoy it. That's, again, the great thing about fandom. You can enjoy what you want. Now, there's a little bit of news out there, and a little bit of news is that another huge franchise has just kicked off their third outing with the principal photography in Budapest. Dune, that's right, the one that influenced Star Wars, is now in its third iteration, which is Dune Messiah. We've had Dune Parts 1 and 2, which became, of course, from the first book written by Frank Herbert. The next one is taking from the second book, which is Dune Messiah. A very thin book, but still a good sequel for what it is, and one that will shock for those that think that Mindharp is a good guy. Is he now? Many of these elements, of course, were looked at by, of course, George Lucas when he was younger, and no doubt had some interpretation in the fall of Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader. That is beginning now with Denis Villeneuve and, of course, Timothée Chalamet, the rest of the crew. Some that won't be probably in it will be a lot of the Caladan people and the Harkonnens. They're not in this story. This is more about a new enemy which will be coming in, but I won't spoil that. You're going to go and check that out. So, on Star Wars, we're going to get into Lando Calrissian. Lando was always somebody I enjoyed the stories of, and particularly back in the days of the novels of Han Solo, which we've always talked about. But in this, we've got L. Neil Smith, Del Rey, put out these books. The first book was published in June 12, 1983, and the last one was in November 12, 1983 also. So within a span of about 6 months, we got these. And they came out in paperback. Of course, you can find it on ebook and many other forms. It's a Legends novel series, so to me, I'm not going to be calling it Legends, even though you will find it in Legends on the shelves. You can find older editions of this, which will just be basically expanded universe, and that's what it is. Regardless of its title, it is the expanded universe of Star Wars. The series starts with Mindharp of Sharu, the Flame Wind of Ossian, and the Star Cave of Thornbacker. And it was compiled in 1994 as the Lando Calrissian Adventures. It's an interesting run, and of course we get to see a little bit more of what Lando did in his time as an adventurer, his early run with the Millennium Falcon. I'm a big fan of the movie that we saw, which should have been a series as well, because I think the amount of adventures that they could get up to, and particularly now they're doing the streaming anyway, why not do it? But of course Lando and Han done so much together. Be interesting to see them do some of these stuff when they were still buddy-buddy.
I'm Corey D, and I get my Star Wars news from Fantha Tracks.
So we'll start with the Mindharp of Sharu, first of the volume, and it was published in June 12, 1983. Basically, here's the main summary. He's a gambler, a rogue, and a con artiste. Not just a con artist, he's a con artiste. Lando Calrissian was born with a well-developed taste for the good life. More comfortable at the dealer's end of a fast shuttle than at the rear end of a blaster. Lando always had his senses scanning for the chance to pick up easy credits. So when he heard that the planets of the Rafar system were practically buried in ancient alien treasure, of course, he hopped aboard the Millennium Falcon and brushed up in his rusty astrogation. He never stopped to think that someone might be conning the con man. Really interesting that would happen too. You know, this is the kind of story, even just looking in on it, that really sets up what Lando is as a person, but the style of adventure that he's going to be on, I think, likens it kind of to an Indiana Jones story in some ways, only in its sort of setting, I guess. Here's the main story. So not long after he actually won the Millennium Falcon himself, Lando Calrissian visits the Ocean system in the Centrality. In a summit game on the asteroid 2795 Ocean, he meets Odetfa Osuna Wet, who is basically telling him of the supposed treasure in the Rafa system. One time home of a highly advanced race called the Sharu, and also extremely valuable life crystals. And they're harvested on a penal colony on Rafa 4. Running short of credits, Wet then, of course, lets Lando to lend him to put up our droid as a gambling stake. When Lando wins the hand, he discovers that the droid is actually on storage on Rafa 4. So Lando's the kind of character who would be gullible enough about some of these stories, especially back here. As a youngster, he wouldn't be as cynical as he is like later in later years, like Han. That comes with experience, and I don't think you're going to get that back here. Hoping to claim his prize long enough, Lando then travels to Rafa 4 and picks up a Class 2 multiphasic robot, a chrome-plated 5-tentacle droid called Vufi Ra. He's subsequently waylaid by the local police force and beaten and arrested on trumped-up charges. Again, sounds like the kind of thing that not only Lando goes through, but Han and Chewie go through as well. Brought before the system's governor, Dutz Mer, and Mer's sinister associate Roku Gepta, a sorcerer of Tund, Lando is railed into searching for a legendary artifact called the Mindharp. He's given the key, a miniature version of the Mindharp, and is set free, although Mer and Gepta disable the Falcon's hyperdrive to ensure that Lando does not attempt to renege on the deal. I think that's another one that's sort of been done, not just in this one, but it's also been done in other stories where they play with the Falcon or they play with somebody's hyperdrive, and they've still got the gear. It's just a matter of you've got to get the job done before they release it to them, even if they did want to, I guess. So Lando and Vufi Ra soon encounter an old man named Mose. This is the Rafter system's primitive but servile humanoid population area, so city, I guess you could call it. Mose, who identifies himself as the high singer of the Toka, tells them that he believes Lando is the key bearer and the Vufi Ra the emissary. Described by Toka legend, convinces them to travel to Rafa 5. The next planet of the system, find out the Mindharp is.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds. Bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
Fortunately for Lando and the droid, Mose leads them into a trap. On Rafi 5, the pair are waylaid by a group of Toka armed with primitive weapons who nearly destroy Vufi Ra and leave Lando to die of exposure. So, again, it's sort of building on the idea of almost a James Bond format. We're getting a number of elements coming to and fro, but each sets up the next adventure to come, I guess. Lando manages to free himself and rejoin, of course, Ra, and then they repair the systems and enable him to survive the damage inflicted on him. Overcoming a group of Rafan policemen, they set by Mer to waylay them in the hopes that Lando had already succeeded in his mission. Lando and Ra patch the wounds and set out to find Mose, the Toka singer, unexpectedly, contrived for early days, and of course for his earlier betrayal, leads them to the base of the Sharu's massive pyramids. Shows them how to use the key to enter it. From here, separated, Lando, Vufi Ra and Mose make a disorienting journey into the interior of the pyramid, which seems to have the ability to warp both space and time. Mose undergoes an epiphany. His previously stunted mental capacity begins to expand, but he is mysteriously blinded at the same time. Lando and the robot Ra, meanwhile, appear to be wildly different sizes, experiencing time at different rates. After observing a tableau of the planet's evolutionary scale and the development of the Sharu, Mose disappears, and Ruffy and Lando find themselves in a vast, containing Mindharp hall. Lando then takes the Mindharp, and he and Vufi Ra exit the pyramid, only to find themselves on a street in Teguta Lusat, the capital of Rafa 4. Vufi Ra, responding to previously established programming, immediately has Lando arrested and brought before Jutz Muir. The governor informs them that they have gone not for a few days, but for the full 4 months. Muir tells Lando everything that brought him Ra in the first place. There's a lot more to the betrayals and stuff like that in the story. You got to remember, he's not that old yet here. He's quite young still. So he's going through the same sort of things that Han himself did in, I think, the story we see in the Ron Howard film as well. So it's betrayals, but it's also, a chance to see Lando have that sort of ingenuity that he has. And, he's more successful at hand deals. That's one thing that we see here too. And Mur tells Lando that everything that he brought for him to Rafa in the first place, including his encounter with also when it had been a setup. Mur and Gepta needed someone who would fit the description of the Toka prophecy. Mur explains there's an enormously powerful device capable of controlling every sentient mind in Rafa's system. Having achieved his goal, the governor has Lando sent to one of the Rafa system's live crystal orchids, what is likely to be a very long but brief life sentence. Lando is rescued, however, by Vifira, now free of the program, and rather guilt-stricken at having betrayed his master. Lando tells Droid that he recognised some of the Toka language of the High Tramic, a language which he has some familiarity. And this is where he realises there are going to be serious consequences if Mur attempts to use the Mindharp. From here, Rafa 4 is whacked with all kinds of different weather, violent earthquakes, storms, the whole thing. Lando and, of course, Ra make their way to the spaceport where they find the governor has retrieved the Falcon from Rafa 5. Gepta, meanwhile, leaves for his cruiser, the Wennis, which has been in orbit around Rafa 5, and they are awaiting, of course, Lando's return. Desperate to take, of course, the Mindharp from Mur before the governor causes a disaster. And Lando and Ra encounter the Mose aboard the Falcon. The singer, whose intellect is no longer that of a primitive man, Mose confesses that he has now learned the primitive Toka are themselves the long-vanished Sharu. Generations earlier, the Sharu were threatened by some unknown external menace, and to hide from it, they deliberately concealed their sights, and indeed the minds of their entire population, beneath the massive pyramids that cover most of the system. The activation of the Mindharp will reverse the process, causing the Sharu cities to emerge from the surface, and results in the Toka will be restored.
Hello, I'm Dennis Lawson, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Gepta reaches the governor's office too late to stop Mur from activating the Mindharp, and Mur is obliterated by the unleashing of the energy. At the end, Lando and Vivi, meanwhile, make a hasty escape from Rafa system, carrying the last load of valuable life crystals they'll ever have harvested there. So that's what's interesting about this story, is that you're getting not only this massive world building, this is as good world building as you're going to get. A series of novels that were pretty much, they said, look, have at it. So long as it doesn't take from stories within the OT, the original trilogy, and that's what makes it so interesting. So where does this fall? Well, the 1998 CD-ROM Star Wars Behind the Magic, which, oh God, I wish I still had that to this day, although I don't think it would work on any computer I've got. Originally dated the events at basically 10 years before the Battle of Yavin. So I'm guessing he would have been about 30, maybe, or late 20s of this, whereas the essential chronology and the subsequent 2005 placed it at about 4 years before the Battle of Yavin. But the 2012 book, the Essential Reader's Companion, dates it at 3 years before the Battle of Yavin. So take your pick. They're placing Lando Calrissian novels between the novels Force Unleashed 2 and Lando Calrissian and their Flame Wind of Ossium. You only got to look at Wikipedia, folks, to see some of the great artwork that was done on these covers. And then this is the early 80s, so these were paperbacks. These were ones that were cheap. They were cheap ones to get. But the cover art and everything was just fantastic. Particularly if you got to see some of the different covers done for international releases of these as well. And it's a great start to the series. A fantastic look at Lando Calrissian. And in the next episode, folks, we're even going to go even further with, of course, the second book. But how many of you are going to go out there tonight and actually check out the work that was done on the amazing Solo film? Seeing young, Lando Calrissian in that just reignited not only a love or a want to see those stories, but to pick out those great classic novels and give them a read. Or even buy the new version, the Legends version that's out there now, which is just a fantastic read. These are all legends, new and old, worth checking out.
Well, that's all we have time for here tonight on the Fantha From Down Under. And we'll catch you next time, same place, same channel, and of course, with more Star Wars news in a single file from FanthaTracks.com's Australian edition. That's right, we'll catch you next time. So, until then, may the Force be with you, and enjoy your Star Wars fandom. We'll see you next time.
Warning, no Tauntauns were harmed in the filming and recording of this podcast.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.